Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Welcome to the J podcast. I am your host, Jahenns Manigat, aka 12, aka Canadian Red Bull. Before we get into it today, make sure to like and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network, where you can get content such as this. Different individuals representing their alma maters, just like I am doing today for the CU Bluejays, as always. With me today on season 2, he's our 7th guest on the podcast. He was a student manager at Crane. He was a member of 2 teams that won the Missouri Valley Tournament Championship and 1 Missouri Valley regular season championship. He was the captain of the Manajay team that played against and beat most other manager teams in the Valley. He's currently on the Omaha Blue Crew TBT staff, and he does so much behind the scenes I literally don't even know what title to give him. He hails from and is the pride of Fargo, North Dakota. Mike Vandevoort is in the building. Welcome to the J, brother.
Thanks, Jay. Man. Thanks, Jay. It's good to be here, man.
How you doing, man? How you holding up?
Trying to stay warm.
It's
officially winter time. Hoop season's in full swing. I've kind of like wound down the whole football season stuff. Like that's whatever. We're basketball season now. All that really
is left is college football. I know you're a super big football fan. I know you're a North Dakota State guy too. So like, how are the Bisons holding up, first of all? And what's the future looking like?
Look, the dynasty is still intact. It's 11 straight, maybe 10 straight NCAA FCS quarterfinal appearances. They'll play East Tennessee State on Saturday, and then hopeful that get a win there. And then I think James Madison probably comes to Fargo Dome the following week. But the success is unbelievable, and it's fun for me. My dad played back in the 70s, and so every week that we tailgate, it's a chance to see some of his old teammates, and it's nice to be able to go into a dome versus watch these games outdoors. So you have a little fun at the tailgate, throw your gloves in the car, head in, and cheer on the Bison.
I remember the first time I met you, that was like one of the first things that you mentioned. You just spoke out your affiliation immediately about the Bison. You tried to convince all of us to become fans. And I remember being like, hey, you know what? They're not a bad squad to watch on a Saturday afternoon. Fast forward a couple of years, Carson Wentz is the quarterback of my Indianapolis Colts, and I'm still quite not sure how I feel about it.
Hey, as long as they're winning, you could be we love it, right? I mean, it's a simple formula.
Yeah, no, I know. Easy. Like, every once in a while I get a little upset because I was a little spoiled with the Mannings and the Lucks of the world, but our team is now going through that stretch where we're just trying to figure out who the man is going to be. And if it's got to be Carson Wentz for a little bit, I mean, I guess we just got to accept it.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, I think you and I could hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. True or false?
Yeah, that would be pretty easy. Yeah, I could run a little play action with Jonathan Taylor too. He's killing right now. Probably an MVP, or not probably, I should say. He is an MVP candidate. As of this recording. Yeah, I don't know how he's going to do for the rest of the season, but as of now, like, he is the MVP in my eyes. Yeah. A little biased opinion though. That's fine.
That's fair.
I mean, you're on the Welcome to the J podcast. This is all about biased opinions, especially when we talk about the boys. So let's get into it, man. Unfortunately, we have to record this podcast after a loss. I hate doing this because we just have to be a little critical of the boys, and I hate to be. But the Jays lose in a hell of a grinded out game against Iowa State, number 19 ranked, on Saturday, on the night where the shots weren't really falling. Just simply weren't able to get enough stops down the stretch to pull out a victory. What was your initial reaction to the game?
Yeah, a couple things. One, I'm constantly reminding myself of patience. I think as a fan, not only that's been behind the scenes, but now is a little bit more disconnected from the program. There's a lot that goes into this. 18, 19-year-old kids, being patient with how young we are, and seeing some of the improvements come along. I think the frustration was just the toughness. Iowa State, led by TJ Otzelberger, kind of got up in our shit a little bit, and we didn't respond real well. And you actually saw that in a couple of Coach Mack's huddles where it was, be patient. You have 5 seconds when you pick it up, start making better decisions. And they really sped us up offensively, and not in a good way. And we settled down a little bit late, but at that point it was a little bit too late.
I'm glad that you mentioned that and just like noticing Mac's reaction during the timeouts, coming out of timeouts, because Mac has got an incredible poker face when it comes to those types of things. It's rare that you see, frustration build up and eventually kind of go over the top of Mac. But there was a couple of times where you could just see it like he just has had enough. I think they had 21 turnovers
Yeah.
altogether in the game. You take a handful of those away, and it's a totally different game, in my opinion, right? You never know what could happen when you throw that ball up towards the basket. But a young team showed its hand again. You just mentioned the word patience. That's been a word that I've been saying over and over again on this podcast, that we're going to have to exercise a whole lot of patience this year, aren't we?
Yes. Yes, we are. And it's fun to see some of the growth, because you can definitely sense it, some of the confidence with Ryan. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner is the one that I'm really starting to gain a lot of trust in. And I think he's starting, the chip on the shoulders getting a little bit bigger game by game, blocking shots, getting a little more aggressive in ball screens, getting to the glass. I mean, that dude, we're going to need big production out of him as the season wears on. And frankly, everyone, like, I think this is a team. We're not going to have a guy, granted Ryan scored 25, Hawkins. We're not going to have a lot of that. It's going to have to be consistently balanced. And let's find that mismatch every night and take advantage of it. And the other piece is continue to build in Coach Mac's playbook. To a regular fan, you have no idea. Jay, you lived it for 4 years. You don't just pick that up in summer ball or fall ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is an ongoing thing, and we're starting to see some of those sets take effect out of timeouts, or when we can really, as Bill Rafferty say, get the puppies organized, and we're getting baskets out of it. So that will keep building. That's the patience piece.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, like in a game where shots were falling, like I said, Ryan Hawkins was such a bright spot for the Jays. I think he went 8 of 11, 25 points, very efficient night for him. He was a steady, calming hand. And I'm not going to lie, a couple of his moves going to the basket with those floaters and soft touches reminded me of another power forward that played for the Jays, whose name shall not be named right now in fear of people, trying to compare the two. But what has Hawkins meant to the Jays so far this season, just with all the experience that he brings from obviously playing Division II ball?
Yeah, both sides too. I think fans are starting to get a little taste of why he was MIAC. I can't remember the name of the conference, Defensive Player of the Year twice. He's in the right spots. He's in the right gaps. He can block shots. He can, sort of get hands in the passing lane. So defensively, he's getting there, and he's starting to show that. And then offensively, obviously the stats don't lie, what he's shooting from three and what he has shot from three. And then his ability to the quick flips, the floaters. I had the same thought as you were saying it. It's definitely very reminiscent of.
It's the resemblance was striking to me. I had a chance to watch the game again Saturday or Sunday afternoon, I should say, and I just kept being like, man, that looks very familiar, especially on the pump fake closeouts. Attacking to his right, getting his puppies organized in the paint, and letting that shot float off his fingers, man. That it looked pretty to me.
It's pretty. And I think there's probably an element of the huddle too, that when you have a guy, he's played in national championships, he's played in big games, to just kind of gather everybody and say, let's breathe, let's take a deep breath. I think at Nebraska, prime example, they cut a big lead down to 3, 4, 5 points. You got a guy like Ryan Hawkins, you can kind of lean to him. Because there is, this as well as anyone, there's a huddle after the huddle. Coaches will take a timeout, and then there's let's get back on the floor, but it's us 5, frankly, against the world at that point. And to have that voice, the calming presence, but then the swagger to say, I'm going to do it. Let's go. I want you guys to join me.
He's been incredible, and he's definitely been someone that I've been very happy was able to join this young group of guys as a transfer. Ryan Nembhard, a little bit of a tough game for him, only 2 assists. I think we've been kind of spoiled the first couple of games with how well he's been able to distribute the ball. Struggled against a tough physical defensive team and presence in Iowa State. You're a guy that saw, a lot of these guys develop over the years behind the scenes. What is one of the things that you've seen early on from Ryan Nembhard that he can that he needs to improve on, and that he will undoubtedly improve on as he gets, a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I think for Ryan, it's hard to simulate how big and strong Iowa State was. And we're going to see this a lot in the Big East, where you're going to have the 6'4" long arm physical guard guarding Ryan. And we got to do a better job in ball screens. I was pretty frustrated, and there was just no ability to give him any space. The other piece is when teams are going to go under those ball screens, I want to see him start knocking down shots.
Let it fly, baby.
Yeah, he picks his spot really well, but he needs to do it more frequently, because once that starts happening and you got to get into hedges with him, he's going to just pick teams apart. And so it'll come. You can see his ability when he gets in the paint. Like, there's so many decisions going through his head. So slowing down that piece a little bit too, and then just picking what you want to do. Like, are you shooting a floater? Float it. If you're going lob with, one of our bigs, let them go get a dunk. So the decisiveness and then probably I think the last piece is leadership. Like, can he be a guy that leads this team? I think Marcus Zagorowski, at some point, it started to really click for him that I'm the dude and I'm capable of shouldering this, and I'm going to help take this team to the next level. How fast can we get Nembhard to that point where I'm the dude and we're going to go places with me?
Before we move on to the next topic, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now's the time, because they're offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today, or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. You must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call telephone number 1-800-GAMBLER. You've been a guy that's been in the coaches' offices, roaming around days after losses. So if we play badly, what that next practice is sort of kind of going to look like before we as players do. The boys just had 21 turnovers against a tough physical team. What do you think Coach Mack is doing this week to prepare them for, like you mentioned, not only Big East games that are coming up soon, but a BYU team, which, quiet as kept, is a really, really, really good team as always. So what do you think this practice is going to look like with all the turnovers that happened this past game?
We mentioned football season's over. There may have been a few pads that got brought out for the big guys. Maybe run the guards through some football pad drills. Yeah, I think there's elements of, I don't know how you teach patience, like to the actual guys and say, hey, here's a 5-second count, but just some toughness drills. Maybe what was the Boilermaker drill? I mean, we had a couple that.
Ask Coach Les to come up with a toughness drills, and he'll have a few for your ass. Like, you don't even have to worry about that. Some charge drills, cavalier finishing, Spartan rebounding, you name it, he has them.
Yeah, I'm going to guess we saw some of the, I'm going to throw it to one side of the free throw line, you go finish and one. Right. The cavalier finishing, and then probably just some ball handling with one or two guys hacking on you. And I'm going to guess the managers were pretty busy in that as well. So, there's good and bad. Like, there's definitely some learnings. And there's probably some clips that you just throw away. Like, my biggest turnover frustration, this is the total squirrel. Guys that catch the ball in the corner have a wide open three, but choose to drive, and they step on the out of bounds line. I've lost it. I've had enough. I've seen like 6 every game, and not just Creighton. It's every game. If you catch this is my new rule. You catch in the corner, you're shooting that thing. You have to shoot it. Yeah. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's funny because when Toby Hegner was it was Will Arturo that was in here post Nebraska. You remember we had a couple of those against Nebraska too on that same sideline. Will had remembered previous years where at Pinnacle Bank,
his teammates, I wasn't on that team at the time, but his teammates stepped on the sideline on that same one. So that's kind of a rule that I have here in the pro game. If I catch it in the corner, I'm not even thinking about driving. I don't care how hard their closeout is. It's got to go up.
Well, analytics would tell you too. It's the best shot in basketball. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I need to do to get that instituted. Maybe I'll shoot Coach Mack a text and make sure that the guys know you catch it in the corner, it's going up.
Did you have to come with a different level of intensity on the days after we lost, knowing that the managers were kind of go through hell at practice too, because you'd have to hit us, and at that time you were going up against Echenike and Kenny Lawson that my freshman year. What were those days like knowing that, like, okay, I know I'm not necessarily going to get to play basketball. I'm just going to have to pick up a pad and hit these guys as hard as possible.
Yeah, I think I still have shoulder damage of some sort from Gregory particularly. But,
right.
It's always hard as a manager because you have sort of who you report to as an employee of the program. And then you have, oh, these guys are my friends. So you got to find this balance of how much do I try and kick their ass, knowing after this practice, we're going to go eat dinner together. And if I do too much to piss off the players, I'm not going to have friends to sit with at the dinner table. If I don't do enough, I'm going to have the coaches call me into their office and say, hey, Mike, did you make us better today? And if you can't answer that question. So it was such a balance of take care of the guys, take care of who cuts my check.
So that's so, bro. I keep thinking about the times where I would look at you and, like, obviously we would go through warm-ups and all that stuff. Once we really got into it, I would look at your standard gray Creighton basketball t-shirt, and it would be drenched. And I was like, man, Mike really went to a workout today just like we did. And not only you, obviously, I'm speaking on behalf of all the other managers too, who are in there working their asses off with us, but
everywhere.
You guys don't get the flowers you deserve for some of the physical altercations you kind of put yourself into just by being a part of the program.
Yeah, it was a blast. I tell people all the time, I don't regret any of it. The 4 a.m. practices, the midnight laundry sessions, the time you get to spend around the program, you get to see so much more. And frankly, I would encourage anybody, if you're as unathletic as I am, but still love the game of basketball, football, any sport, volunteer, like try and become a manager at your school and get to experience the behind the scenes and see what goes into every practice, every game, every workout. Like it's insane. And it's easy as a fan to only see the 60 minutes of a basketball game or 60 minutes of a football game versus no. These guys for 365 days a year are busting their asses, and that's them reaping the rewards, but enjoy the process and enjoy everything that goes into it.
So we mentioned that the boys play against BYU next as of this recording, because I think they play tomorrow. They're 7-1. This includes impressive wins against Oregon and Utah. Their lone loss, surprisingly, was against Utah Valley in overtime. A little bit of a shocker as I was looking that up today. Their leading scorer is guard Alex Barcelo. He's averaging 18.6 points per game. Their point guard, Tajon Lucas, is averaging 11.9, so let's call it 12 points a game and 5 assists per game. What should the boys, where can they improve? Obviously, not counting the turnovers. I think we've harped on that enough, but what are you looking for as far as improvement is concerned for the boys on their next time out?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're going to see two of the best guards, maybe not all season because Big East is pretty stacked, but from a scoring standpoint, Tajon Lucas is a transfer from Illinois and UW Milwaukee. So shout out to this guy being on his third school. And Barcelo is just a walking bucket. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Creighton fans may remember a guy named Jimmer Fredette that came to the CenturyLink Center back in, 2011? Jay, you had a lot of fun chasing him around.
First of all, we're going to age ourselves here a little bit. It was called Quest Center at the time. It turned into CenturyLink afterwards.
I know. It's hard to...
I see BYU and I think Jimmer immediately. And I think avid college basketball fans have the same kind of like knee-jerk reaction where we see that Cougars logo, and we're like, oh shit, Jimmer's around, isn't he?
Jimmer. They had another good big on that team too.
Yeah, I'm gonna Brandon Davies. I played
There we
against him
go.
a couple of times overseas. Actually, he's still out here doing his thing. He's actually been on a couple of EuroLeague teams. He's a really, really good, high-profile player out here in Europe.
He might have torched us as well. We actually did a pretty good job on Jimmer, from what I remember.
Yeah, held him to a season low, but I mean, when you trap a guy every ball screen, you'll do that.
It's good coaching. It's good scouting. Yeah, but I think for the guys, one awesome opportunity. Pentagon is a killer facility in Sioux Falls.
Right. I failed to mention that it's on a neutral site. It's neither in
site.
Omaha or at BYU. It's on a neutral site in South Dakota, correct?
South Dakota, Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Very historical gym. Actually got a chance to watch Coach Grant Gibbs there 2 years ago with his G League team. That still doesn't sound right coming off my tongue, but yeah, that's okay. We can get into that a little later.
It'll take a little getting used to, but I think all of us would be lying to ourselves if we didn't say that Gibbs was gonna be a coach one day.
He's gonna be a coach. No doubt. No, super proud of him and all that he's doing, and his future is really bright. But I think we should travel fairly well. I don't know how many BYU fans will make the trip. My advice to Creighton fans is pack warm. It's going to be really cold in Sioux Falls. And I think for the guys, continuing to play a full 40 minutes, I think the North Dakota State game, we put it together for 35-ish good minutes.
Much to your chagrin.
Well, that's a win-win game for me. I love both Coach Mack and Coach Richmond at North Dakota State are two of my greatest mentors and friends, frankly, and I will support both of those dudes until I leave this earth. So it's fun to see NDSU come to Omaha. I was wearing blue. I want the record to reflect that. And I will I will put on the green and gold when I go up to the Shields Center here in Fargo. But can we play a full 40? I mean, and we're going to have to with BYU, ranked opponent, unless they'll be ranked when we play them on Saturday. So let's put together a full 40, take care of the basketball, see if we can't get a good performance from Alex O'Connell. And one thing fans don't realize, the dude is busting his ass defensively. And nobody sees those stats. Like what he does chasing guys, and this as well as anyone, Colt Ryan, Jimmer Fredette, you had to chase some dudes. It is really hard to play and score when you're doing that defensively. And so, just for Alex's sake, I want to see him make a couple shots, and it'll get a little pep in his step defensively.
He's such an explosive athlete, which I never was. So he can get a lot of easy points either in transition or on backdoor cuts, or driving hard to the pin and just using his athleticism over guys. So that's a little bit more that I'd like to see from him personally. But fans of the podcast will know that ever since this year started, I've been praising him for stepping up into that defensive role, accepting that defensive role, because I know how tough it is, and I know how much sacrifice goes into that when on any given night you understand that you're going to score 0 to 10 points maybe, but you're going to have a positive impact on the team because you're shutting down that opposing player in his situation and in my situation, probably the best guard that's out there on the court.
Yeah, 100%. And he did a pretty good job even versus Iowa State. I mean, Gabe Kalsher did he score? I don't even know if Gabe Kalsher scored.
I'd have to look it up, but if he did, it wasn't much. It wasn't enough for us to notice. So
I know. Yeah, exactly. So it's again, those things go unnoticed outside of maybe your coaching staff talking about them, because as fans, we're pretty offensive minded driven. That didn't make any sense, but
it made enough sense for me to understand it.
Yeah.
So the boys are 7-2 right now, right? 7-2.
Yeah.
So how do we feel about them in this early part of the season? We know that their toughest stretch of games is about to present itself, but they've looked good at times. They've looked not so great at times. They've won some very close, gutsy games, and they just lost a close, grinded out game this past Saturday. For a young team that is lacking experience, but not only that, lacking some cohesiveness, because they haven't had a chance to really gel and play together all that long. Still being 7-2 at this point of the season. What's your optimism level for this team 0 to 10 right now?
Yeah, I think 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say a few things here. One, we play to our competition a little bit.
A lot of it.
and here's one observation I made. I had a chance to spend Thanksgiving with Doug and Nick McDermott, and we were watching the Southern Illinois game. And I was like, do you think the boys like hit the Bahamas club? What was the name of that?
Club Hurricane, baby.
Club Hurricane. And as you know, kind of as a joke, because the first half we were just sleepwalking. And he goes, well, maybe, you never know. They're in Virgin Islands. I don't actually think that's true, but we looked a little sluggish. I said before the season started, when our schedule came out, 8-3 in non-con, I'm a pretty happy dude. I thought Colorado State would be tough, Nebraska, Arizona State, BYU, and Iowa State is much better than I thought, 100%. TJ has constructed a roster that just works, and the way they defend, those dudes are going to win a lot of games.
Well, Iowa State did manage to bring a bunch of tough guys who really obviously showed how tough they were in that game on Saturday. I'm right there with you. I'm hovering between a 6.5 to 7.5. I'm in that range too. Like I said, and like you said as well, patience. We're going to have to exercise patience. I think that's going to be the toughest thing for Jays fans to hear, because we have been pretty spoiled, especially the last 3-4 years. You know, the boys just came off of their best season, arguably in Korean history, reaching that Sweet 16 for the first time since the field has been moved to, you know, that tournament format. And then before that, you know, we have the years with, you know, my senior class and you know, all the success that came with that club. And then you had that exciting team with WAP and JP and Marcus Foster and Cole Huff and, you know, Kyrie Thomas. So we've been kind of spoiled this past decade. I think we're going to have to really exercise some patience with this young team. But, you know, like you mentioned, that we've played up and down to our competition so far. So we're certainly going to win some games we probably have no business of winning. And I'm sure there's going to be a couple of head scratches in there somewhere as well, too.
Yeah, I think it's a normal season, too, in some standpoint. Like I don't know how somebody used to put it. There's 20, you play normal. There's 5, you win. You absolutely should. Right. There's 5, you lose. And it's like, what was that?
Right.
So we'll see. I think, you know, back to some of the playbook stuff. And if some of our offensive guru, Coach Max, if we can get that stuff embedded and start running it. And then just the transition piece. I mean, that's the spoiled, you know, with Marcus Zagorowski out and running, with Mitch Ballack trailing from 30 feet, hitting Ballack bombs. Like we've been super spoiled, and those things take time. They take time in games, in situations. So I'm a forever optimist though. So I'll be rooting. We'll be cheering.
It'll get better. We'll have better days than what we had Saturday. Let's get into, you know, your love of basketball, and when did that start to like really matter for you? When did you realize that, like, look, I really like this game and I want to play it for as long as I possibly can, and even when I can't play it anymore, I still want to get myself involved in basketball one way or another?
Yeah, growing up, we moved when I was 1 year old. We originally had lived across from a hockey rink, and my dad said, my kids are not playing hockey, so we're going to move into a different house. And, you know, in North Dakota, there's not a ton to do in the wintertime. So I got lucky to get involved with some traveling basketball teams early on. Went to a smaller school, got a chance to play with some of the bigger kids, kind of grown up through middle school and the JV level. I was never good. I couldn't shoot. I had to play the post because I was the biggest kid, but I always loved the game and loved like seeing my teammates have success. And so as soon as I knew I was coming down to Creighton, I was lucky enough to get in touch with Coach McDermott and actually run a few basketball camps the summer before I came to school, and then really had no idea what being a manager meant. But once you start to get immersed into it, you kind of get hooked. And then it becomes like its own little fraternity. not only the, sort of the Manajays, but with the guys themselves. I think for us, it was unique, like Colin and me, that we had two managers.
Oh
right?
yeah. It's hard to think about it because, the boys have so much help now, but back then when we first started, it was really you and Colin holding it down for that first year at least. And then Joel came on board, John McHugh came on board a little bit after that. And it became, like you said, that little bit of fraternity, a little bit of a team that you guys put together.
Yeah. And this isn't intended to be a blast, but Colin and I had to buy our own polos the first year. Like now these guys, they're getting shoes and pants and shirts and they all have matching stuff. Colin and I are out here. I stole like a triple XL, didn't fit. Colin had a few old ones. We didn't match. We had different shoes.
Never matched ever.
So, I'm hoping maybe if someone sees this, they'll send me a polo or something and as a sympathy gift to what I had to deal with and what I swam in while I was working games from the bird's nest.
Oh God. That is so funny because like I said, like the program in and of itself has just come so far from back at the old gym to Championship Center. Every time I get back to campus, it seems like a new building's been put up like during my 10-month absence, So not only the program, but also like campus and like everything that's surrounding Crane has really grown. To think back about our humble beginnings, and I'm sure guys like Kyle Korver and Anthony Tolliver will tell us that they had even less than what than what you and I had.
The Civic Center.
So crazy. Exactly. It's just so crazy to think about the fact that you had to literally buy your own polo to look presentable on the sidelines during games.
Yeah. It is fun. It's fun to look back. It's fun to think about. So many good memories from practice to camps to hosting recruits to just like, these are my lifelong friends. And, it's a bond you really can't break.
I wanted to know like the origins of you kind of spoke on a little bit, having that conversation with Coach Mack and asking about, what you can and can't do for the program to help build it. But what was the origin of you thinking of, I want to throw myself into the fire here a little bit and become a manager?
Yeah, I actually spent my first year at North Dakota State and I did a lot of different volunteer work, student government, a couple other orgs on campus. And I missed sports. Like I would show up to basketball games, be front row, yell at opposing teams. And as soon as he got the job, I didn't know him or the family, but we had a mutual connection. And I was like, well, maybe I can just help out. Like, I don't think I asked to be a manager. I just said, I want to be a part of the program. And Lord knows it was not as a player, as a walk-on. It was what do you do with college kids? And so got put in touch. I came down on Jefferson Lines, the bus, Greyhound bus. I worked camp, but I was too afraid. And of course, we stay in the dorms. I was too afraid to ask for a new room. My air conditioning didn't work. And there was like this little ticking noise. So all week it was 95 degrees and I had this little noise going on. I don't think I slept the first actual camp that I worked. And you're getting up at 5 a.m. because that's when the kids are ready to go. And for some reason, I'm like, yeah, let me stick with this. This sounds like a really good idea. I should keep doing this. And, like I said, the relationships, I mean, first dude I met was Kenny Lawson. And then it just slowly started to meet more and more of the guys on the team. And you realize like, all right, we got something special here.
What are some of the things that like the average fan wouldn't know that like a manager has to deal with on a day-to-day basis? Being a manager of a Creighton basketball team that was on the rise at the time.
So this isn't necessarily day to day. I get a kick out of we had to take cell phones on the road.
Bro, I have that in my notes. Oh, I don't know what you would have to go through. But go ahead. I want to hear your version of that. How that would go for you.
So there's two pieces to this. One is I'm not going to name any names because I'm not here to blast our dudes. Somebody started handing me like literally a rubber phone. And I was like, at least give me an old one, a broken one. This is clearly not your cell phone. So that happened several times. And I'm like, well, hopefully you sleep well tonight. And then there's the element of if the guy doesn't shut it off, we're not going to touch the phones, but it's sitting inside the room and we just have like 8 cell phones vibrating all night from texts and emails and Instagram notifications or whatever. And the next day when someone would pick it up, I'd be like, hey, can you mute it or shut it off next time? Because I didn't sleep. We literally had a choir of vibration happening. So that one is some of the fondest memories. Because, every time you'd knock on the door to pick it up, it's a different excuse. Come back, give me in 5 minutes. Like, what?
Right.
What are you going to accomplish?
How often did you have to make the rounds of like, because guys, we don't want to give up our cell phones at 11:15 at night on a weeknight just because we're on the road, right? So how often did you have to like make the rounds and be like, okay, guys, like last call, like I have to for real take your phone this time?
Yeah, you had personal favorites. So when you got the room list, it was very strategic of this is where I'm going first. Sorry, walk-ons.
Right.
Going to get from you. And then even if the room is right next to me, I'll get to that one last. But, again, my manager experience was so much better than a lot of guys, like respectful, caring, and frankly became friends like this right here, you and me, I heard some horror stories for sure.
Yeah. Hey, I wonder if you were, because I remember pulling this prank on you guys where we would turn our phones off, but we'd also set an alarm for like 15 minutes. I think like 3 or 4 of us were a part of that, where we would set an alarm like 15 minutes
Unbelievable.
apart from each other. So you'd wake up at like 4 a.m., 4:50, 4:30, 4:40.
I'd make Colin go shut those off. Oh God, you guys are sick, man.
I'm sorry, bro, but we had to do it to you. We didn't want our cell phones to be taken away. We're 18, 19 years old, man. That's the prime of cell phone life. You know what I mean? Like we just didn't want that access to be taken away from us.
And now it's like I could have my iPad, I could have my computer. The reality of shutting off communication, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah,
so
not in this day and age, but back then I had my BlackBerry. My BlackBerry was
BBM
everything to me before I lost it. BBM, baby. Big BBM guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. When did you guys start organizing managers games? I remember like I was in study hall night before a game and I just kept hearing the ball bouncing. I'm like, man, someone's up there putting in work. Like I thought it was one of our guys. I go upstairs and you guys are having a full-on game against like Bradley's managers. So when did that like begin and how did you guys really start to organize that?
Well, I think first 2 years we didn't have enough guys. So my senior year, Johnny McKeough, who is Mr. Organization himself, I don't know how he got in touch. I don't know if it was through like the director of ops on the opposing teams, but it's really blown up. Like I think there's national manager games. We would always try and recruit like a walk-on to kind of join us. And then, we had a few grad assistants who were pretty good players. One who played way too hard, Donnie Vandenberg. And once Donnie
Donnie was in there trying to really hurt somebody.
Oh man! Once those games, like if someone got hurt or overly competitive, I was like, it's not really worth it. We don't need guys getting hurt, but it was fun. I mean, it's just good for me, it was cardio, like how not to get fat while being a manager / college student. So I never scored much, but just run up and down the floor a little bit, and always good to post a victory over Nebraska or, one of the Missouri Valley rivals. I can't remember who we all played, but
I know it wasn't every team, but I felt like it was the majority of the teams. Like if it was like 6 or 7 of the teams that were really down to play and actually compete a little bit, because you guys were also instrumental in starting that Manajay's, Twitter handle when it first started blowing up. And that's when like people caught wind that you guys were doing this, and you would post a picture of all the managers either before the game or after the game all together in one shot, which was kind of incredible because you kind of forget that the majority of guys are guys who really love to play, who really still want to be involved in the sport, and this is another way for them to express that.
Yeah, it'll be fun to look back at those photos and say, coach, even getting a sense of that now with John McKeough, obviously on staff at Creighton, Kevin Jewell, who's on Lutz's staff down at Corpus Christi. Joe Pop is at Fairleigh Dickinson. So
Joe Pop, baby.
the network of guys going on and being successful, whether it's as a coach, doctor, attorney, business person, like that'll be fun to look back on 20 years from now, and all the things you learned being a manager applying to your actual real life.
I mean, you're mostly going to be in a team setting. You're going to have to learn
Always.
how to, not everyone's an entrepreneur doing everything from the ground up. And even when you get to that point, you're going to have to delegate some of your responsibilities if you really want to build something. So yeah, being a part of a team is always something that's going to be helpful in all facets of life, I would say.
And sometimes you're going to have to do some really stinky laundry.
Every once in a while. That just kind of comes with the territory. I mentioned some of the championship teams that you were a part of in the Open. For someone like you who's done so much behind the scenes that the average person doesn't know about, once you saw, let's just say like it's Championship Sunday in St. Louis, we beat Wichita, which was your last experience, right?
Yeah.
Once that happens, what kind of satisfaction do you feel, even though you didn't check into the game, you didn't score a bucket or get a charge, but you've done a lot to help the team get to that point? What is that overwhelming feeling like for you when you were a part of teams that were so successful?
Yeah, it's special. I think those early mornings, late nights, whether it's laundry, rebounding, nobody sees that, right? Like nobody is behind those scenes, but all those moments make it worthwhile. For me, Wichita was my 22nd birthday. I got a chance to cut down the net and just celebrate the success of you guys. I mean, I think it's a culmination of obviously a hard conference season, a pretty special experience in St. Louis, not as special as what our fans get maybe. But and then, like we're going to carry this trophy on the plane back home. And then next day it's like, all right, let's start getting ready for the NCAA tournament. I think it's right. It's definitely a peak. And then you actually get your next peak on Selection Sunday the following week, which is where we go and who are we playing and how are we going to get these guys ready for that. So it was a pretty awesome feeling, even if you're in a polo versus a jersey, to celebrate with your team. I mean, it's like a big sales thing. It's you pass the test, and you don't get a lot of time to reflect on the championship because it's back to work the next day. But
right,
I still have that piece of net with me today.
I have both of those, right, from the tournament, and hanging on both hats. And I still have both hats in Mama's basement. Mama, don't you dare get rid of those hats. I swear if I come back and I find out that they're gone, I'm going to be upset. But yeah, man, those memories, it's hard to take away. Like every once in a while, I'll just sit there and I just have flashbacks come to me. And it's like it happened yesterday. It's kind of crazy how that works out.
Yeah, I think I actually caught a buzz with our fans from the amount of just beer and Tito's like flowing from their pores
when they rushed the court in St. Louis. I think.
Yeah. I didn't need a celebratory cocktail. It was there.
Our fans are known to get rowdy, so I'm not shocked about that at all. TBT, Omaha Blue Crew. Mike, there's something that you need to announce to us right now on the Welcome to the J podcast.
We are stoked. Myself, Josh Jones, Coach Ice, the city of Omaha, Omaha Sports Commission. We are excited to announce that we are hosting at DJ Sokol Arena the first, second, and third round of TBT. Now, this will be just one specific regional. And we've talked about it a lot since last year. For those of you who got the chance to watch an amazing game, amazing finish to Kansas State.
Amazing.
And then just an incredible playing experience against Wichita. Again, not the ideal finish for our guys, but we've talked since that day, like we got to get this to Omaha. The world needs to see how Omaha will support this. And we're excited. July 16th through the 19th, there'll be more ticket information coming out, but it'll be a chance. Alumni, Creighton basketball alumni will come back. We'll have all the stars hopefully back in town, do some stuff for the community, and then let's play some basketball. Let's support these guys and get a chance to see how their games have transformed from being overseas. Obviously, Jahenns was a crucial part of last year's squad, along with a few other alumni. and excited to get back to work. We'll probably do a training camp the week before with our squad, and then hopefully reel off a couple games, win $1 million. Why not?
Why not? Let's do it. First of all, Mike, I gotta say this. For those of you who are listening, not watching, I'm giving a sitting ovation because I'm not gonna stand up during the podcast to give him one, but you do deserve a standing ovation because, man, we talked about TBT for a little while, and we always had the question, like, what is it going to take for us to finally organize, put a team together? Finally last year, yourself, Josh Jones, all the people behind the scenes reached out and said, hey, what are the odds that, the boys would want to play if we actually organize this? I was always a proponent of enough of us are going to want to play that. It's going to make it worth our while. And I think the fans are really going to come out and support that. We represent a little bit in Wichita, Obviously, like you mentioned, wasn't the ending that we wanted in that second game against Aftershocks. But still, we had enough people very interested in Omaha that were watching from the region that TBT took a chance on us. And just our second season in TBT, we're going to be one of the host regions. That's incredible, Mike.
Yeah, super awesome. I think it goes without saying, thank you, Coach McDermott, Teresa McDermott, Doug McDermott. Your support in year one does not go unnoticed. For our guys, the meals we fed them, the travel, transportation, there's a lot that goes into it from a budgetary standpoint. So thank you to them. We're excited year two, build on it, get all the alumni involved, and win some more games. I think, for me, it's our brand is national. The Creighton brand is national. Our guys are now playing internationally. We have the alumni to put together a full squad and frankly win some games, and just keep building on that, because we're going to keep having more guys that will play at the next level, whether it's the NBA, the G League, or overseas, and making great money supporting their families.
It's incredible. Like, I can't believe that I will have a chance to represent Creighton University in Omaha 8 years after graduation. Like, just for me to think about that, like, I feel like I want to play right now, right this second. Like, I never thought that I'd have a chance to do that again. And here we are. We're a few months away already.
Yeah. Do you think we could sell it out?
Oh, I'm saying that we're going to sell out Sokol so bad, they're going to look to see if we could get into Shy Health. But we'll see. That's going to be a little bit more difficult, right? But I don't know. If we don't, though, and if we can only sell out Sokol, I'm looking forward to that, too, because I've seen women's volleyball, I've seen women's basketball,
rocking,
and it could get rocking in there. So I know that they would like to come out there and support us for sure. But you're an eternal optimist, so am I. I would love for us to be able to move the venue to Shy Health. Jesus, I keep changing the name. I keep blanking
the Quest.
Now, but
the Quest, yeah.
Always the Quest, the original Quest. How crazy is it that you and I got a chance to reunite over some basketball this summer? Isn't that insane? Another thing I never thought I'd get to say.
So fun, man. So fun. It's it's interesting. You can be apart from these people for so long, and it's like you never miss a beat.
As soon as we get back.
Yeah. Now it's, how's your wife? How's your kids? Where are you living? What are you doing? Where are you playing? Like, it's hard to follow you guys overseas, and we're trying to do a better job of that from a writing standpoint. But the experiences you all are getting is unbelievable. I mean, you can speak to it better than anybody. Like, I have some cousins that play volleyball, but for you guys to just go overseas, live these cultures, eat the food, experience, European basketball, it's pretty incredible.
It's been a crazy ride for me. I can speak for myself. I never thought I'd be in year 8 of doing this thing. After this season, I'll be heading into year 9. Like, awesome, it's kind of crazy how time flies. And like you said, I've been able to go all over the place and, witness some different cultures and eat some different foods and meet some different people. But there is nothing like being able to go back and play in Omaha. So I'm really, really looking forward to that, man. I don't know if you can tell, but like I said, man, I'm already looking forward to it. I already know our fans are going to represent, so I'm not too worried about that part now. It's whether or not we'll be able to field a team that's going to be, that's going to represent not only Creighton University, obviously, but it's called the Omaha Blue Crew for a reason. We're representing all of Omaha as well. So, even if you're for whatever reason, a UNO fan, or for whatever reason, a Nebraska basketball fan, and you're from Omaha, you could still come and rep the Blue Crew just for those couple of days that we're going to be able to play in Omaha.
Yeah. Yeah. And, maybe we'll see a team from UNO or Lincoln.
Down the line, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of work, man. That's you talk about another one of those behind the scenes things.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, ask Josh Jones how many people he got in touch with, committed to playing, and then didn't actually play. It's reaching triple digits.
Jeez.
Well, so
we're gonna field a good team. We're gonna make Omaha proud this summer. I could feel it in my bones already.
I feel one for one with you. So
hey, okay. Okay, I'll take those. Before I let you go, I know you're a busy man. So many behind the scenes things that you do, so many low-key things that you do that not only helps, the people around you, but the world in general. You're such a giving person. So I'm not going to take too much of your time. Got to ask you some standard questions that I ask most of the guests, and then one that's pertaining to you specifically.
Fire.
Favorite college arena to play in while you were as a student manager?
Oh, man. This one, it kills me, but Wichita State was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really
cool. It's okay to say that. I think Coach Mack said that too, maybe Gregory Echenike, but Wichita State, there's a lot of bad blood there.
So loud, man. It was so loud. My ears hurt.
Yeah.
And the rivalry, in the game, I think we're on ESPN or ESPN2. And that one's tough to beat. I didn't get to go to San Diego State, but I had heard pretty good things about that one.
That was another really good one. I wish you were on that trip.
Yeah.
Favorite college basketball player when you were growing up?
Favorite player growing up? Well, if we like going way throwback, there was a guy named Denver Tenbrook that played at North Dakota State, and he was a bucket. And then the other one I would go with is Ben Woodside, who should have played at like Minnesota, but he came to NDSU and absolute bucket. Like this dude, he gave Kansas 35 in the NCAA tournament. And Bill Self said that's the best guard we've seen all year. So
I love how you keep your affiliations near and dear to your heart. That means a lot to me. Favorite restaurant in Omaha?
Favorite restaurant in Omaha?
If we're going,
let's go. We're going to do two. Italian Via Farina.
Okay.
And if we're going sort of like casual, Block 16, man, I miss that place.
You were a big Block 16 guy for sure. I do remember the few times that you went, you always asked me if I wanted to go with. I don't know if I ever went during, broke student athlete at the time. I don't know if I ever actually went. I was sticking with the Brandeis's that I'm used to. But yeah, no, Block 16 is go. I'm not going to lie to you. It's some pretty good food.
If we had NIL, you'd have been buying me steak every night. So
God, if we had NIL, Dougie McDermott would have been a millionaire by halfway through freshman year.
Well, you're not wrong.
If we're fifth, we'd all be drunk by it.
Yeah, true.
Last question. Who had the best manager squad?
The best manager squad. Well, I'm not going to say based on like basketball. I was blown away by what Duke did. Like, one, they had more bodies than anybody I've ever seen. And they like spaced them out every 4 feet around the court, towel on the shoulder, clipboard in hand, basketball, pencil in the ear. And I just remember being like, what is this? Like, and I think it's some of Coach K's, Army days coming out a little bit, but man, they ran a machine compared to like us just kind of showing up like a little bit disgruntled. The other one I'll say is Florida Gulf Coast, when they showed up to the NCAA tournament and all their managers had J's on, their polos were untucked. I was like, hey, these dudes look kind of fun. And I actually leaned over to Colin. I was like, watch this. They're going to beat Georgetown, like as a joke. And it turns out they did.
Yeah. That was, what was it? What did they dub themselves? Was it
Dunk City? Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. Dunk City. That was so wild that like, obviously they're in the same region as us, playing in that same building. I remember our game leading up to Duke,
Yeah.
when Georgetown was walking through our tunnel and all those dudes were crying. And I was like, there's no way they just lost to those guys, But when you go back and you look at that film, you look back and look at those highlights, that team was a well-oiled machine as well. So shouts out to Florida Gulf Coast. They're really their thing in that tournament for sure. Had a memorable run that I kind of wish that we had.
I know. Maybe let's do it in TBT.
Man, let's do it. I'm looking forward to it, brother. You already know. Mickey, Mike, thank you so much for taking some of your time today. I appreciate you so much. I love you, brother. Can't wait for us to get back together this summer. We got to do more than TBT, bro. We got to golf. We got to hang out. We got to figure this thing out.
We will. Love you, Jay. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. Big fan of the pod and grateful to kind of share the manager experience. And
hell yeah.
Lucky to be a fan of Creighton basketball. That's all I got to say.
Of course. For those of you listening, thank you so much. I appreciate you and I appreciate all your support. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Philly 68 Media Network for content such as this. As always, go Jays and everybody stay safe out there.